who will replace Doug Pederson. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. It is great to be here with all of you today. It is the 12th of January, 2021, 11:31 on the East Coast. A lot of news to break down today in the city of Philadelphia. Yes, the Sixers played last night as well, for those who may have not been aware because of how much was going on in the Philadelphia sports world. As always, joined alongside my co-host, Gavin Tony. Gavin, we did more than just a show yesterday. We had about about an hour show yesterday. On top of all that, another 45 minutes. We took call-ins late in the afternoon after the news broke that Doug Pederson was fired as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, I said it yesterday in this chair. I said, next 24 hours, you'll know. Will Doug Pederson have his job? Turn around the clock. It's been 24 hours. It looks like we have our answer. Doug Pederson out as the Eagles head coach after 5 seasons, including a Super Bowl champion, a runner-up in the NFC as they lost to the Saints in the divisional round, and of course getting knocked out against the Seahawks. This year, Doug Pederson only a second losing season as the Philadelphia Eagles head coach at 4-11-1. Yeah, and we went into a lot of detail with it yesterday, but we've had a chance to sleep on it a little bit. So let's see how our opinions have continued to develop. Gavin, some additional thoughts, I would say, after this news broke.
Well, first of all, Zach, it was an amazing show. After show, I guess you want to say. We had what, 4 or 5 people on. Shout out to those guys hopping on, sharing their opinions. And for those that couldn't get enough of your boys, we came back on for another 45 minutes to an hour. So you got the best of both worlds for us. But Zach, my initial reaction was I knew this was coming. I knew it was coming. Zach, it wasn't the fact that he's 5 years removed, 5 seasons in, 3 years removed from a Super Bowl. I get all that. 3 to 4 years removed. I get all that. It's not about that. It's he lost the locker room this past week, this last year. The locker room was distraught. It was diversity. Zach, we know all about diversity. There's diversity in the real world outside of sports, and sadly, Zach, it still continues. And there was diversity in the Eagles locker room. It started off with Nick Foles, Carson Wentz. You ship out Nick Foles, then that's your guy. Carson Wentz is your guy for a year. Then you bring in Jalen Hurts. But in that year where Carson Wentz was the guy that was the mold, Zach, you said it the best. Why is it always when there's something going with the Eagles that we hear about it? Why can't anything be swept under the rug? Why can't anything be, kept behind closed doors? That's one. Then you bring in Jalen Hurts that you pay. You pay Carson Wentz a good amount of money, Zach. I mean, I'll take $100 million.
Top quarterback dollar.
Zach, if you gave me $100 million to be the starter on the bench, $100 million, no matter how you get it, it don't matter. Okay, it's like you get it how you get it. But and then when the final straw was week 17, you're down by 3. You're down by 3 points. At halftime, you go in. Apparently, the team was told that this is what they were going to do, and they were told this during the week. But if you look at those guys' reactions, I don't think they cared, even if they were told during the week or even if it was right now. Zach, I don't think they gave a damn at all what it was. And here's why. We know the Eagles, and we know what the city is. The Eagles, especially the Eagles, they don't feel like they're out of the game until the game is over. Zach, no matter what the score is. Pittsburgh, they thought they were in it. Zach, I think they were out of it once as soon as that last touchdown was given up to Chase Claypool. That was it. They were in that game. Zach, they were in multiple other games. Cowboys game, to be exact. What else, Zach? They were in the Cardinals game. They were in a lot of these games. But this week 17 game, you put Nate Sudfeld in. Like it was senior night, Zach. Like it was it was a senior dance and he lost the prom king or whatever you want to call it. And you throw him in there, and not only does your team look pissed off, Washington's trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, Hurts is about to get us. Because he was the 0-2, your 0-2 touchdowns came off Hurts. And then Zach, to make matters even worse, Jalen Hurts wasn't wearing a mask, which is not my point. My point is this. you look at Jalen Hurts' facial expression. And it's like, I'm not the best reader of all time. All right. It's like, I don't know if you are. Maybe you can help me with this, with my point. He didn't look too happy. He looked surprised. He looked pissed. He looked shocked. Miles Sanders came on WIP saying, no one was happy with the decision. Do I believe that people had to be restrained? Yeah, I do. Do you believe Jason Kelsey's post? No, I don't. There's always that one guy that has to be, well, that's not how we saw things. Okay, that's his way. All right, that's like, my point is this. He lost the locker room, and Howard Roseman also needs to go, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But Jeffrey Lurie realized that this locker room is now lost.
Well, I mean, I agree with you on that. I think that there's a lot of division in this football team. And listen, for those who may or may not have saw Jeffrey Lurie yesterday speak, he said a lot of empty words. For those who don't know, when you have interviews like that, you talk and not much comes out of it. And so I'll be completely honest. I was not that satisfied with what he said yesterday. However, there were a few key things he did point out about the emotional attachment of a certain amount of players after that Super Bowl season. You think of Alshon Jeffrey, some other guys in the secondary, like Ronald Darby, they gave him another year extension. Of course, that expired last season. They let him walk after this year. But I think at the end of the day, you take a look at some of these different situations. You're right, Alshon Jeffrey. Why is he so expensive? You pay Carson Wentz so much money. Your O-line is getting older, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, he's right. We got emotionally attached to a lot of guys. I think the Eagles didn't make the best decision yesterday. The best decision is to fire Howie Roseman. Obviously, that's a given. With all that being said, firing Doug Pederson is the next best thing. No disrespect to Doug Pederson, but look at the New York Jets. They said, you know what? Let's give Adam Gase one more season. What they do? They wasted a whole another year. The Eagles said, you know what? We're not going to waste another year. We know it's time. And time it was, and they cut the strings with him. I'm sad about it. Honestly, I'm heartbroken as an Eagles fan, but I understand it. All right? He never gave up the play calling. All right? He never was really able to get out and do his job. And frankly, while the players rallied around him a lot, Gavin, you pointed out, he lost his locker room. And I got to be honest. As much as I respect him as a coach, it was the right time to go. We're going to go into some head coaching candidates in a minute, but Gavin, anything else on that?
Yeah, real quick, Zach. I just want to say, when you got a guy in Doug Pederson, it didn't seem like he was going to try to fix the problem. Did you hear what he wanted to do as a replacement for offensive coordinator and all this stuff?
It was all interior.
Exactly. You have to get outside of minds. Zach, you know the reason why I'm big on college coaches getting another chance, or somebody new getting a new chance? You don't know the system they have. That means it takes a whole NFL calendar year to learn the new coach's system, and then that's when it gets starting to get tricky. Doug Pederson, your stuff was so stale, Zach. I don't know, and then he wasn't going to fix it. Good move by Jeffrey Lurie, but Jeffrey, I gotta call you out real quick. There's a guy that sits under you, and not actually under you, but metaphorically, he sits under you. Your general manager, Howard Roseman. Let's not forget about his wrongdoings. You could have DK, you could have Justin Jefferson. All right, Miles Sanders is a great pick. Andre Dillard, I'm not going to question it. All right, you could have these guys, but you could have a dominant wide receiver core with just those two alone. Zach, you're failing. You're failing to get the need to help your quarterback with talent. And instead of you actually getting talent, you're just going to get a whole new quarterback. I don't get that. Howard Roseman needs to go before this sixth pick is brought to light. And if he doesn't, Zach, we saw the Heisman candidate yesterday. Your brother tweeted, he said, if he's not in Midnight Green, there's going to be people going to be pissed. I agree with Jake. And if he's not there, I'll take Jamar Chase. And if we don't get neither one, I guess you can go Michael Parsons. But, Zach, you need to go wide receiver. Don't sell for anyone in the Pac-12 because they're garbage. That's a joke. Zach, the Pac-12 is like what the Pac-12 is like the LA Fitness Basketball League. It's a bunch of wannabes. All right, they want to be college football players, but they're not. Zach, the LA Fitness games, they want to be NBA players, but they're not. All right, they're just guys that go there and get runs in from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Zach, that's what the Pac-12 is in my eyes.
Yeah, look, I mean, Interesting analogy for sure. I'll give you another one. This Eagles situation is pretty simple. You have, in the NFL, you have chefs pretty much. You have someone who goes out and gets the food and the ingredients, and then you have someone who prepares it and puts it out. And then, of course, if it tastes good, you're winning games, you're getting Super Bowls. If it tastes terrible, you're losing. You're not doing anything. All right, Howie Roseman, it's his job to go to the market and buy the ingredients. Let's say we're making burgers. Howie Roseman went out, looked at the ground beef section, said it was too expensive, tried to outsmart, went to the back and got day-old beef. All right, it's still getting a little brown on the outside. It's not even in the wrapping. And he gives it to Doug Pederson, and he said, "Make me something good." And he no other ingredients, no butter, even no salt to season it, no pepper, right? And so the ground beef is already old on its own. He cooks it, gives it to Howie and Jeffrey. Tastes terrible. All right, chef, you're fired. Next guy comes in. If you give him that bland day-old beef or Carson Wentz after being destroyed this year and looking terrible, you're going to have a problem. You need a general manager who's going to give you the ground beef, the highest quality one. You need a general manager who's going to give you the seasoning, the onions, the garlic, the pepper, the lemongrass, the whatever. And then you give it to him. You're not going to make the burger for him, but you got to let him go in there. You got to let him be the chef. They never give Doug Pederson the opportunity. As much as I think Doug could have done things better, and I'm all for the termination, the chef himself is not really the one that's going to unfortunately fall in the knives, which is what he's going to do. You give him day-old ground beef. Carson Wentz was a fresh piece of meat. It's been sitting on the counter for 3 years. All right, it had a potential to be a good burger, but when you don't season it, instead of giving him, you know what? Instead of giving him salt, they're giving him the big pink Himalayan salt that's not even broken up, that you can't even break up, so you can't use it. That's what we're doing right now. That's the best way I can explain the Eagles situation. Your chef is not the biggest issue. He has the pan, he has the gas, he has the fire on, but you don't have the seasoning, you don't have the sides, you don't have the onions, you don't have the flavor. You have Jalen Reagor. All right, he's not seasoning salt. He's the bland stuff you get at Trader Joe's in the bottom of a bin. Let's be real here. That's what we're looking at. That is what this Eagles situation is. Now, whether you bring in Todd Bowles or Robert Saleh, some key names, Deuce Staley, if it's still day-old ground beef, there's only maybe you'll mince it and you'll get a year of a winning year. Like you took the ground beef, instead of making a burger, you minced it. All right, so the first 2 bites tasted good. That Jalen Hurts win against the Saints, it tasted all right. A little bit of greasy in there, but it was close and it was fun.
What about the Packers? What about any of the Packers
and the Packers game? But once you start getting into the meat, your stomach starts to turn and says something doesn't taste right because you're just tasting beef and it's day old on top of all of that. Let's be real here. That's what the situation is in Philadelphia right now. You need to get the seasoning salt. And for those who are getting lost in my analogies or just getting flat out hungry like I am right now, you need to get Devontae Smith, or you need to get something in the draft. Jamar Chase arguably is better than Devontae Smith. I'll take either one. They're both phenomenal players. In the first half yesterday.
Zach,
so, those are my takes. That's my analogy. Get rid of the chef because he couldn't cook day-old ground beef to taste good. You need to be able to bring in someone else whose cooking style might be a little different. Maybe he'll put it on an open flame and char it a little bit, but you got to give him some salt and some seasoning, and you got to do something else with it.
Real quick, Zach, because now I'm hungry, so I'm gonna throw one more analogy in there. This 6th pick, right? It's like everybody. It's like you ever come from a long road trip and everybody's hungry. Okay, Justin, or excuse me, and I'm going out. This 6th pick right here. Jamar Chase is the Chick-fil-A, right? You have.
Well, now you're just making us all hungry, dude.
Okay, well,
I do that to you. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, Jamar Chase is the Chick-fil-A, or excuse me, Devontae Smith's like the Chick-fil-A, Jamar Chase like the Wendy's, and then you have some Pac-12 player that's the McDonald's. Knowing Howard Roseman, we're going right to McDonald's, ladies and gentlemen. We're going right there. Get your Happy Meals ready because that's what he's going to do. And then he think we're going to be happy with the pick. Zach, were you happy with the Jalen Reagor pick? You be honest, because I wasn't.
Once Jacksonville went with Kayvon Chase, and I'm like, all right, there's no way that we don't draft Justin Jefferson.
Oh, there was no – trust me. Howard thinks he's the smartest one in the room. We're like an idiot. Zach, I'm the smartest one in the room. I'm not even there.
If you have seasoning salt, when you walk into a market, right, seasoning salt, 25% off. That's what it looks like. Instead of getting seasoning salt, you go on the ground and you pick up the very little sprinkles of salt that spill when someone's transferring it to their bag. No offense to Jalen Reagor, and he's a nice kid, and I love the mentality. Don't get me wrong. He came back from injury twice this year with shorter than anyone would have thought. But when you have seasoning salt right there, you take it. You take Justin Jefferson. With all that being said, before we start eating our computers,
one more. I got one more for you, Zach.
Go ahead, before we go to commercial.
Last one. It's like coffee, right? You put coffee, you got all your sugars, you got all this. You can put, I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's like Dunkin' and Starbucks. All right, you had Dunkin' and Starbucks there. Justin Jefferson was both best of both worlds, and you went and got Wawa coffee. I don't get it.
All right. Wawa coffee is pretty good.
I had an experience with Wawa coffee one time, so that's why I say that.
Okay.
You guys,
apologies for those who are hungry, but definitely gonna be a top moment in our anniversary review. But coming up after this,
Ramsey, who needs the real Gordon Ramsay? You got one right here.
Coming up after this, we're going to be breaking down the college football championship, possible replacement coaches for Doug Pederson, and then we'll touch on the Sixers. Not much to talk about considering how short roster they are. Stay tuned. We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today, and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewers' choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. Enjoy today's episode. All right, Gavin, let's start with what we do know. Todd Bowles, Robert Saleh have both officially been requested to have an interview with the Eagles. As of right now, Lincoln Riley is still speculation. If I have to pick right now, I have 3 different routes I can go. Number 1 is the CEO route. You promote Deuce Staley to head coach, and then you bring in an outsider for offensive coordinator, and you bring in an outsider for defensive coordinator. Let Deuce be the people guy. Let him be the head coach, but let everyone else do the play calling and things like that. He can help with it because he knows a thing or two about it. He's developed the running backs nicely. That's option number 1. Option number 2.
Can I ask you a quick question on that one?
Go ahead.
Would you bring in Alabama's offensive coordinator from yesterday after you saw last night?
Possibly. I would have to break that down. I think there are. I think Mike Kafka would still be my ideal candidate for OC, the QB's coach for Kansas City, because the enemy guys like that, they're going to be getting head coaching jobs. Okay. The option number 2 is to go offensive. Eric Bieniemy, where I've been blanking on his name all day, the guy from the Bills. Either one's a great fit here. Like Bieniemy developing the scheme there, they're very pass heavy, so I think that'll be an interesting combination. I do like Bieniemy. With all that being said, I think the Texans are ideal. They haven't talked to him surprisingly, but also in Buffalo, the offensive coordinator Josh Allen had a 55% completion percentage the past 2 years. This year it's at 70%. Given they got Stephon Diggs, but Allen has developed amazing. And he's a very similar quarterback to Carson Wentz. They're the bigger northern-style quarterbacks who have strong arms and are also able to move. So that is my other option. The final one is to go defensive. Robert Saleh.
Dabble, or whatever. Dabble. Okay, but we got it. Go ahead.
I'll have to memorize it during – if he becomes head coach, we'll have no problem memorizing. But Todd Bowles and Robert Saleh, also the final option. They can both be a defensive-oriented coach, unlikely to have a defensive coordinator, possibly a one that has a minor role. And then you'll have to bring in an offensive coordinator, which my pick would be Mike Kafka, the QB's coach for the Chiefs. That's how I see it right now. 3 different routes for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, it's like I like the first route, and we're going to break that down a little bit more because I feel like if you could get a guy like Deuce who hear past Eagles players, they want him to be a head coach here. Zach, I'm all for that, and especially he takes the CEO route where he's not the yes guy, like everything runs through him. He's more the players guy, and you got a guy that takes care of their offensive business and defensive business. I'm all for that. But when it comes to getting a head coach, Zach, you know where I stand. It's the enemy. It's the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs not the Chiefs, excuse me, for the Bills and Brian. I can't say his last name. We're going to memorize that. Or it's like I'm gonna bring another interesting name to the table. If you're gonna get a coach, and this is going back to the CEO route, if you're gonna get a coach, why don't you get Deuce Staley, and then you get yourself a young, fresh-minded offensive coach, and then maybe you call Anthony Lynn and see if you can run a defensive side. That's my opinion. I mean, that would be pretty cool. And if you go with Lincoln Riley, you get some veterans underneath and to back them up. It's like the options are wide open. You can go anywhere you want with this pick. Anywhere. You can't go wrong with this pick or with this pick at all. But what does need to change is this. Regardless of who you bring in, let them control who's on the sideline with them. Let them control who's going to be that guy with them. I don't want to hear about what Howie says. I don't want to hear about what Jeffrey says. Are they on the sideline during the game? No. Are they calling plays? No. They should have no. They just need to shut up and cut the check. All right. If you bring in Eric Bieniemy and he wants to bring somebody else in, you don't question why he's going to do it. You just be like, all right, well, what has he done? And then if he tells you, you shut your mouth and you cut the check. If Robert Saleh wants to bring somebody in, you shut your mouth and cut the check. Because what I heard from Doug Pederson is, even though Doug wanted to keep it all internal, which I didn't agree with, it sounded like he had no choice in what to bring in and what to not bring in. That's the problem. You can't have influence like that. I said the same thing about Jerry Jones. You have to give up something. And the problem is Jerry Jones is too stubborn. He didn't give it nothing. He finally made a good move yesterday. I was talking to Trent. He's happy for it. And I said, you're going to give it from 50 points to 49 points, so it's not going to be a big difference. But it's like, it's just this. If whoever you bring in, you got to give them the control to do what they need to do to get done. All right? You have to. You have to. And you got to be careful. And remember, offensive coordinators, you have a good year, they leave and go. And don't ever offer Josh McDaniels a job, because he burnt Kansas City with that, or not Kansas City, he burnt Indiana with not going there. They got Frank Wright, which is arguably a better choice. And he couldn't make it work with Cam Newton. So, because I heard someone say Josh McDaniels, don't bring Josh McDaniels into this. I sure as hell don't want Josh McDaniels here. But Zach, it's just such a control of how much you could get if you're a head coach here.
No head coach will want to come in if the rumors continue to speculate about the lack of control Doug Pederson had. Look, I'll be honest with you. Robert Saleh, you see him on the sideline with his players. He reinvented that defense the last few years. He would fit perfectly here with the defensive front the Eagles have. And, of course, Todd Bowles in a similar way. My only concern is that in order to have a really good team, what usually happens is you need to have a consistently good offense and just good enough defense. And so that's where my concerns come in. If, let's say, Saleh comes here, reinvents the defense, you bring in Mike Kafka as your offensive coordinator, you go on to a few good playoff runs, another team is looking for a head coach, they bring in Mike Kafka. Now you got to go back to the same search. So there's two routes. Of course, the Patriots, which are the Patriots. You really shouldn't model off of them because for some reason they're the only team that can do it. Bill Belichick, defensive-minded more or less. He lets the guys do stuff. But he has Josh McDaniels, so it's consistent at the offensive coordinator. Look at Minnesota. They've had 4 offensive coordinators in 4 seasons. You go Shermer. You go whoever the QB's coach here was right before he went there. I remember he became OC the next year. He leaves, so it goes to Jacksonville. And then another guy comes in. Then this year, another one. 4 offensive coordinators. That's 4 offenses you got to learn year in and year out. I'm not a big fan of that, but I would love to see Robert Saleh here. If it's Todd Bowles, again, he's reinvented that defense. That's a great run defense. It would fit well here. Both of them would really fit well here because they both have similar philosophies about a powerful front 4. But my ideal candidates are the OC of the Bills. And again, I apologize for not getting his name perfect. I will remember that tonight. And then, of course, Eric Bieniemy. Those are my 2 top choices. And then if we go the CEO route, yes, I am a big fan of Deuce. If we do bring in the OC from the Bills or Bieniemy, Deuce Staley should be the offensive coordinator. I think he does deserve that promotion because you can do an internal offensive coordinator build because you bring in an external head coach.
And you know, it's like I'll take it even a step further. If you bring the enemy in with Deuce Staley as offensive coordinator, they're going to run ideas off each other. That would be fantastic. And then you bring a defensive coordinator to worry about the defense. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that, please? And I'm all for Deuce Staley. Met the guy, nice guy. All right, he deserves something. All right, it's time. All right, it's time. But it goes back to what we said earlier. It doesn't matter if they don't have control here. And you know, it's like, look, real quick. Don't you find it funny how Howard Roseman survived through 4 coaching firings without him? Without him being fired? I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's time
that's an odd one.
It's time to clean house. I'm serious.
Sixers have pretty much done it this offseason. The Eagles been looking at a similar thing. All right, so.
Oh, and real quick, you brought up the Sixers. Notice how they said, all right, Doc, you pick your staff. You pick.
He did, and he brought in a pretty dang good staff. And I know that right now, due to some different issues, they're struggling. They fall to 7-4 after a loss to the Hawks last night, but that's expected. We're hoping once Seth is back, Ben Shake. It's going to be a tough road for the next week or two for the Sixers, but once guys start coming back and getting healthier, the NBA, people are asking me, should the NBA be postponed? No, I don't think so. Reason being that the MLB had a big bump in the road. NFL had bumps in the road all year. I think for the NBA, there are going to be bumps in the road early, but I think they will start to smoothen out as they get a grip on things with protocol, things like that. Protocol will need to change because at the moment, obviously, it's not as efficient. But at the same time, we'll learn more. And, of course, vaccine rollouts to the players, 2-3 months from now. So we don't know what it's going to look like by the time of the playoffs. But at the moment, I don't think the NBA season should be postponed.
Excuse me. Zach, when it comes to the NBA being postponed, the only thing I'm pissed off about, first of all, I don't agree with that. The only thing I'm really ticked off about is this. You canceled Boston versus Miami. Another game was canceled, and another game was canceled. But yet we had to play. That's the only thing I don't get about it right now. I don't understand that. I really don't. But hey, I mean that's Philadelphia way.
Yeah, why not? Playing through everything, rolling with the punches. Coming up after this, we are going to be breaking down the college football championship. Alabama taking care of business yesterday without a problem. Where does Justin Fields currently sit in the ranks? Could he still make a move at the first overall pick? Stay tuned. Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this. All right, Gavin, as I expected, Alabama, SEC powerhouse, continuing to take care of business last night. Simply just too much talent on that field for Ohio State to be able to defeat. But I do have an essential question. I was looking at some of the stats and looking at some of the players. Does this team rival what we think is the best college football team of all time of just last year's LSU?
I don't know. And here's why I don't know. And if I had to pick one, I'm gonna roll with LSU. The reason why I say I don't know at first is because Mac Jones wasn't a dominant quarterback. And what I mean by he was a dominant quarterback, I mean Joe Burrow scared the old living crap out of you when you faced him. All right? LSU has stars all over the place. Clyde was hilarious. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, the tight end. All right? And the defensive side, Patrick Queen. All right? It goes all over the place. There's too many questions. I don't even feel like trying to go through all of it. You look at this Alabama team, they were just offensively dominated. All right, Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle,
Najee Harris,
Jalen Waddle, who shouldn't have been out there last night. The offensive line, sack. There's a stat that this is one offensive lineman, forget his name, that didn't give up a sack in his 3 seasons there. Good for him. But when it comes to all around, this defense was not that scary as we always known Alabama's defense to be. The take no prisoners mentality. Zach, the only team that couldn't score points on Alabama when it came to the last 3 to 4 weeks, or when I actually started paying attention to Alabama, was Zach. We all know Notre Dame, and I don't really count Notre Dame's garbage time points because they weren't, because they didn't care no more. But Alabama, to say this is the best Alabama team, maybe offensively, but that LSU team was all around talented, and I had to roll LSU.
A couple guys going into the NFL this year for Alabama. We'll see how they pan out as well, of course. Easily wide receiver U there, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. The list continues to go on and on and on. So with that being said, Gavin, let's look at Ohio State then. Of course, a team that was not necessarily expected to be there, but they beat Clemson very, very handily. Justin Fields, not the best night for him at all. I still think he goes second overall to the Jets. Again, he would have had to let it up last night, Gavin, to make the Jags think, but I think that the first overall pick is clear now in Trevor Lawrence. Now, can Justin Fields have a pretty successful career? I do think so. And that's going to be a pretty easy conversation to have. But we'll have to see how it rolls out. Of course, in April, we're doing our mock draft, getting predictions and more. But I do think that comfortably I can say it's going to be Trevor Lawrence and then Justin Fields 1 and 2.
Even though Trevor Lawrence did beat Alabama, I still think Trevor Lawrence is going to be the guy there. Do I see Justin Fields going too? There's a mock draft that says otherwise. Zach, you know how I feel about mock drafts. Just shut them up until the actual thing happens, all right? Mike Mayock and all these, Mel Kiper and all these guys, I don't care what they got to say. They're always wrong anyway. But when it comes to this, 1 and 2, it could go either way. Remember, Zach, there is I guess there's going to be a pro day / combine. All it takes is for anyone to just look and say, wow, he had it better than he did. Well, I got to think long term. Zach, Justin Fields, we know he can sling the rock. Do I think he goes number 1? No. Does he go number 2? That's questionable. If you're the Jets, you should. For long term, Sam Darnold isn't it. But if he doesn't go number 2, I would look out for the number 4 pick. Atlanta, that could be a destination for Justin Fields. And if you're Justin Fields, that's what you kind of want to be. I think they're on borderline rebuild, but if you trade, I mean, would you rather be borderline rebuild versus a team that's, I guess, been rebuilding or at the bottom, or I don't even know what you want to call the Jets, Zach. But at this time, I guess I'd say 1 Lawrence, 2 Fields, and then the field, and then hopefully at 6 is Devontae Smith. But Zach, all in all, Trevor Lawrence got number 1.
You know, I mean, I hope that Smith falls to us. Otherwise, I'll be perfectly fine taking Chase, both SEC receivers. I just don't trust my front office. But as stories continue to roll out, I imagine an Eagles hire would happen before the Super Bowl, as they tend to do, depending on anything major. If the Chiefs make it all the way, then it could be delayed. But it's very possible that we can have some candidates really circled in on. If they do go with Lincoln Riley, you'll know within a week or two. If you do want to sit on it and go with the enemy or on the Bills, it's going to take some time. So we'll continue to cover the stories as they come in. Again, if you didn't get to watch our second show yesterday, it was a pretty exciting one. Had about 4 or 5 guests on to break down some of the breaking news of Doug Pederson being fired. But with all that being said, Sixers play the Heat tonight. Not expecting much from it. Both teams pretty banged up, but I do expect the Sixers win.
I think Sixers pull this one out. Zach, I hope Ben Simmons comes back tonight and plays. We don't know yet, but I'm not worried about the Sixers skid. They're slight-handed. All right, they're missing damn near everybody. So just Sixers fans, just be patient. They're gonna be okay. All right, the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie Irving, what's going on? Personal reasons, I get it, but now there's videos of you circulating with no mask, family party with no mask. Oh man, Brooklyn, you're disappointing me. Oh, Kevin Durant, you're disappointing me. My MVP pick, but it's like when it comes to Sixers, just relax, everybody. They're short-handed right now.
Yeah, I did want to definitely sit on the news with Kyrie Irving for a few days in case it was anything major with his family. But if nothing else comes back from what we know, my prediction about this, some of these Nets off the court issues could start coming true. But they look really good on the court together. So I'm hoping to see. I mean, as a Sixers fan, no, but as a NBA fan, I'd love to see them get back on the court and get back to being a good team. With all that being said, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today here on the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. Thank you again for watching, and have a great day.
Zach, I'm hungry. I'm about to go eat. Have a good one, everybody.
See you, everybody. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts of